Hi, hi. Welcome back to the crossroads. Nice to see you again. It's a little bright today, so forgive the but the lighting is good. I want to talk about a little something today. Uh, I was watching Dr. Ramani. I don't know if y'all know Dr. Ramani. She specializes a lot in talking about like narcissism, emotional immaturity, avoidant type stuff, um, all the good stuff. And there's a video where she was making or trying to make the distinction between being emotionally immature, having more of the dark triad um, type stuff, and then being narcissistic. And she talked about how all of this is sort of a continuum, like a spectrum, sort of like autism in a way. Um, and I definitely understood the points that she was making for sure, the distinctions. Uh, And I realized, and I kind of knew this for a while already, but I and there was a quote. She kind of mentioned this, and somebody else in the comments did too. They said, um, "Every narcissist is emotionally immature to some degree, but not every emotionally immature person is a narcissist." Absolutely true, and I know this to be true at least from personal experience because I remember being raised as someone who wasn't allowed to like fully form her own identity, her own personality. Me growing up around them was like unsafe. They felt like that was a huge threat. My autonomy, my agency, all that. And I remember now that I'm more aware, painfully aware, that I did start out or was becoming incredibly emotionally immature, really unaware of my patterns, especially in relationships, any kind of relationship, whether it's platonic, friendship, or coworkers, anything. Um, and I was like, oh, okay. But then I started realizing that over time, because people weren't checking me and I had family members actually enabling my emotional immaturity, even if I didn't want to be that way, I started to adapt. And that emotional immaturity absolutely began to evolve into something a little darker, something a little bit more strategic. And it wasn't necessarily malignant or malicious. It was just an evolving and adapting. It started to twist itself. Um, and I took some notes, so I'm going to be glancing back and forth, of course, as usual. Um, but in thinking about all of this, being now more aware and trying to now navigate life more confidently through the beat of my own drum. Um, I feel sometimes guilty that I might end up treating emotionally immature people, narcissistic people, um, and again, I'm still doing maturing myself, so I'm not above anybody. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I now have a level of awareness that I did not have before, and it's significant. I can feel it. Um, but I feel like I not even accidentally, like, it's very intentional. I feel like I feel guilty for sometimes having to treat, these different types of people sort of the same across the board, because 'cause I've dealt with all types, uh, and but I feel like we don't talk enough about how sometimes we see people morph from emotionally immature, like I talked about, to flat out being cruel, or sometimes being calculating in their behavior. They don't always evolve for the better. And like I said, it started to happen to me. Their immaturity can absolutely twist into something more sharp. Um, or sometimes these people naturally like fluctuate between um, tactics sometimes based on their inner state, their mood. And then I would feel kind of inauthentic around them because I felt like I had to pretty much tiptoe or adjust myself. And so, because these people are not willing to consciously adjust, they started pointing the finger at me like, oh, you're moody, you're fake. Like, you're like this around me, but then around other people, you're like this. And I'm like, well, of course I blossom in other um, environments because I laugh more loudly. I can express myself more fully, but I can't with you because that's not, you've proven to me that I'm not safe. You cannot hold me. Your nervous system it cannot hold me when I need to be held. Um, so I don't feel safe around them, period. And in this healing process, other sensitive people sometimes have also had to pull away from me because we were at different levels of awareness, or I've had to do it to others, and that's life. It's kind of painful, but mm, that's, I fucking hate the saying, but I've reached an age where I'm like, it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. Charlie Sheen. Anyway, so I will minimize contact totally if I feel that it's necessary. Um, I will shift. But these types of people, the different kinds that I'm describing, they have all hurt me on some level from a very young age. And it always felt scary to me, or sometimes it felt dangerous to some degree. I love that that little tone. Um, but yeah, even if it wasn't physical, I felt, yeah, this isn't good for me. I don't feel safe here. So this Dr. Ramani, she gave an example. I'm going to walk you through this. She said an emotionally immature person might let himself receive a blowjob at his bachelor party, right? But there's a difference, she said, between that and then having an affair, or multiple, and then going out of your way to make your partner feel crazy when they bring up the changes in your patterns or in your behavior. And then she went on to say, well, one makes me feel shitty, but okay, that's, I know she didn't mean it, it was something along the lines of, it's not as dark as the other thing. And that's where I had to hit pause on the video and I had to listen to my body. You understand? I'm going to say that one more time. That is the point where I had to pause the video consciously, and you have to be aware enough for this. Because something came up in my body, and I was like, I think I'm going to listen to my body a little bit. I'm going to listen to my body first right now and let it speak more loudly than Dr. Ramani. And I'm not dismissing her. I'm saying I am respectfully hitting pause, and I'm going to have to listen to this baby first, to the body. Because something's going on that's starting to feel a little bit louder than Dr. Ramani, and I still want to pay her um, respect and put respect on her name where it's due, because she's amazing. And I understand the distinction that she was trying to make. Yes, one is different than the other. Yeah. But I realized in the body, I started to feel angry and sick and deeply sad and confused. And I felt like I wanted to cry. Oh, I feel my throat even locking up thinking about it. Breathe. So I was like, okay, if I found out that my partner had sex with someone or let themselves receive fellatio just before our wedding, I would feel fucking sick to my stomach. And I would pull back the same way that I would if I found out that they were having a full on affair. Some people might call that overreaction, but I know it's not that. And I'm going to walk you through that in a little bit. And I think it's me pulling back is because I know that my pattern recognition is good, and no, that doesn't make me so much holier than thou. It doesn't make me, I don't even want to call myself an empath. I'm sensitive. I mean, I am sensitive, but not like chosen. I'm a golden child, an indigo baby. Like, no, I just have really good pattern recognition, and it didn't come from anything good. Unfortunately, mine didn't come through any good examples or examples from a distance or examples that came with support afterwards. I had to learn alone, and it was dirty and it's ugly and it's messy and exhausting and yeah. But so I'm in my mind I'm thinking, okay, so this is just an example. You can apply this to any other example, but we're going to use that extreme one because that's the one that she used. This is sex now. This is like a big violation of trust and of everything. So we're gonna stay with that. So this person in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so my partner stayed with me this whole time, right? Something in them felt safe enough to do this, to let this happen. They didn't plan against it. They didn't self-reflect beforehand. Let's say they had parents that were like this, or they had friends that would do this or enable this type of behavior, or just didn't say anything about it. They would just kind of keep it quiet, keep it pushing. Never did they reflect on even watching it in shows or listening to stories about cheating or any of that. They never reflected. So they didn't plan against this either. But they felt safe enough to risk the relationship, even if it was just in that moment, if it was just a little bit, even if it was just a YOLO moment. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So they stayed with me. And something else in them felt that maybe if I found out, it would be bad, but maybe not like end the relationship bad. That's their mentality. Sometimes, most likely. And me, at the point that I've reached in my life now, no. That is end the relationship bad for me. And I'll explain why. I don't care to stick around for that kind of repair anymore. That takes a lot of work. Okay, to stick around after something like that. In my mind, I'm thinking, what's now expected of me? What am I going to have to carry now? On top of therapy, on top, you know, I came in looking for healthy. The kind of baseline that I went into when I entered this relationship was integrity. And now I feel like I'm being knocked back. I don't know how many steps. And that's fucked. Because this is not what I signed up for. Now I have to pause myself and I have to backtrack with this person so I can walk with them through therapy with someone who I am now finding out was never on my level emotionally or up here. Not in here, not up here. They were never really on my level. And I don't even know how deep this goes. I'm just finding out the tip of the iceberg because that blowjob is the tip of the iceberg, or those texts were just the tip of the iceberg. You better believe it when you find your partner doing some stuff. That's only the tip of it. And I'm not again, this isn't about them being evil. Okay. So we'll just scrap that language already. And then I'm thinking, how many years of this now am I going to have to endure? How many times will I have to remember that event when they're sleeping beside me or when they're smiling in my face or when they're saying, I'm sorry, I'm trying? How strong am I going to have to be now to breathe through that memory of knowing, what happened behind closed doors? Also, I'm not stupid. No one said I was, but this is just a saying that I'm saying out loud. I'm not stupid. In order for this to have happened, for that kind of breach of trust, I guess, in order for that to have happened, they must have already been giving other people a certain amount of flirtatious access. And see, I mean, this is just me, but I'm like, I'll bet my last dollar in the bank that this wasn't the first time. Maybe it's the first time that they received a blowjob from someone else, but it's definitely not the first time that they were probably flirting or making eyes or prioritizing someone else emotionally or flirtatiously. So these people with like that kind of cheating YOLO mentality, they don't usually say YOLO once. You feel me? They've let themselves get carried away multiple times and in different degrees in order to say YOLO. They already had the sort of emotional looseness inside. They didn't have boundaries like that. So YOLO is rarely ever a one-time thing. Fuck off. It starts somewhere way before you even came into the picture, usually, that whole YOLO thing. Also, I could run the risk of forgiving this person emotionally. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I could run the risk of forgiving this emotionally immature person, and then they choose to just adapt, right? Like they get sneakier, pretty much. That's not always, again, necessarily malevolent, but the emotional immaturity and their cowardice could run so deep, and they could probably feel so safe and so relieved after me forgiving them that they just pull that shit again anyway. And this time it's going to be in a more advanced way. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Let's go ahead and file those divorce papers. Um, stat. You can go ahead and feel sorry and heal away from me at a distance. You can do all that because I'm not with it anymore. Um, and so I wanted to, in a slightly more formal way, I rounded out the edges of what I'm saying, and I wanted to explicate that more. So we're going back to when Dr. Ramani said one is shitty, but not as dark as the other. And my whole body said, fuck that. Fuck that. No. And it's not because I'm rigid. It's because I've been exposed to too much hurt already. And it's because my system tracks what behavior implies about a person's internal scaffolding, their structure. So I'm not just reacting to the act itself, which is what most people see on the surface. I'm also tracking the pattern that it required for that kind of act to even occur, for them to let that happen. And it was like I said, that person, they already had, they needed to let access happen. That had to be allowed somewhere inside of them. Boundaries already had to be loose. Internal permission had to exist already. Risk calculation had already happened. That part. And again, I think that that's pattern recognition, not paranoia, in the way that a lot of people, a lot of men, try to make it seem. Um, I'm not gonna. I had a memory in mind, but I'm not. We're not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna reveal any of that right now. I'm gonna stick strictly to the little script that I have here. So some people will go, okay, and it's not because they're dumb or anything. They're just trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense. So they're like, all right, technically, this is less bad than that, and that might work like on the surface or temporarily. But me, I'm thinking, what does this reveal? What does this reveal about who you are and what you're capable of? That's this part that makes me feel shaky inside. And that's a much deeper question than, or a much deeper reflection than maybe that was not as bad as this. Because I'm not into the business of comparing. what was worse than the other. It's about how did it make me feel. Impact matters more than intention. And then the standard that I'm holding is I came in, like I said, looking for healthy or some form of healthy. Even if we're not all the way there yet, I still had a vision of what kind of healthy I wanted. A lot of these people don't even have a vision of the type of healthy that they want to cultivate or enter. So when something happens around me or in an intimate relationship that shows a lack of integrity or a lack of internal boundaries or a willingness to risk the relationship, like I said, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just for a night, even if it's not all the way I put my whatever inside of her or him. I'm not interested in the repair arc. In that kind of that girl. And I'm not like I'm saying pretty much that this is not the structure that I agreed to build upon. This isn't even a foundation for me. This is what the hell even is this? um and then the thing that I mentioned was how many years is it going to take now for me to get over this or to heal from it? How many times am I going to have to probably hear before intimacy like, well, how long are you going to keep punishing me? Oh, girl, no. Like people massively underestimate that, like the aftermath. I'm not with it. Like it's not just, oh, can the person change? It's again, what am I going to have to now carry? Like that's a big burden. That's something that I now have to carry, not them, not anybody, not my friends, not the therapist, me, me, me. Because now I have to live with the memory, the doubt, the constant subtle scanning, right? The recalibration of trust. I'm telling you, that is real labor. And is that something I want to do now? No, it's not my motherfucking fault that you wanted to make the one mistake and now I quit. It's not even really I quit. I'm not standing for this. I never did. And the fact that it never reached you up here or in here that I probably wasn't going to stand for something like that sucks. It really does. And some people, like I said, they really do feel like, yeah, like it would fuck her up, but like she would stay. She would have stayed because she's like me. And I want to talk about the escalation next. And I think that the way that I'm thinking is I'm not being cynical. I'm being grounded for just for me, for the way that I'm thinking. Because people who blur boundaries once, people who justify internally, and people who minimize risk in that moment, like I said, they don't often just do that randomly once in isolation. It's usually a broader pattern of being loose. And I don't mean like a slut necessarily or like, oh, he's a hoe. Like, okay, you can use those words if you want. I'm just saying being emotionally loose, okay, with others. Their attention seeking and their avoidance of accountability. It's again not always malicious, not always evil, not always calculated. Again, it could just be a fuck it moment, a YOLO moment. Okay, but YOLO also costs. And for me, that's that kind of to build or to try to build on something like that is a no. Beg your pardon, I had to switch locations, but so what was I saying? Right. So that kind of baseline that's already unstable for me. for partnership, and I don't want to continue. I'm good. I'm totally fine with ending it here. And I want to stress the fear, because there is always a fear, and fear is fine. Fear is where you learn where your limits are at if you do it the right way. Um, but my biggest thing is, like, what if they don't become better? You know, my partner, what if they become more strategic? And that kind of fear is very real, because I've seen it happen, even among my own folks. The people who created me. Um, because some people don't become healthier; they become better at hiding, and they become uh, more adaptive in their avoidance. And so I want to go back to the guilt that I'm feeling. And so my other fear is, hey, now I might start like treating these people the same across the board for now. And I think that that just means that my system is now being like, until proven safe, everyone gets limited access now. And it's not like, oh, everybody can get it. Now I'm going to freeze everybody out, because that's more becoming cruel in a way. But what I'm doing is protective generalization after repeated harm. And I think after everything that I've been through, I'm absolutely allowed to be in a phase where I minimize contact. I don't give depth to others easily, even if that means I have to move really slow and in a way that other people don't understand. I am no longer someone who's going to wait and see. I don't gamble my nervous system anymore, essentially, or not the way that I used to. And I don't think that that's something that makes me paranoid or cold or unfair or avoidant. It makes me discerning. It means that I'm recovering and redefining my boundaries. And I'm absolutely allowed to do that. Um, but like I said, the part that I want to remind myself of, and stay gentle, is I don't turn it into, well, everyone is unsafe forever, right? So I try to hold that, again, I will let people earn access over time at my own pace, slow. But my instinct about relationships is becoming clearer and clearer the older that I get. So I don't want intense cycles of repair, like betrayal, forgiveness, rebuilding. Because you're trying to rebuild something that I already had a vision for. Again, I want baseline integrity from the beginning, even while there's temptation. And I don't think that that's realistic. I just think that that's now me being selective. So I'm not rejecting people because they're imperfect. I'm, my God, I'm far from it. But I am rejecting patterns that are going to require me to override my safety, um, to stay, to survive an environment like that. And I've already gone out of my way to survive environments. I don't want to just survive environments anymore. I want to build. I want to create. I want to cultivate and treat what we have like a garden, not treat the garden like it went through a big ass forest fire, if that makes sense. And so me being like, okay, now you can feel sorry and heal away from me, that's also not harsh. That's, I think it's clean. It's me separating myself from them without trying to like outwardly punish anybody. And um I think I'm still in a space where I'm like still sometimes like, what if I'm being too harsh? And I had to kind of write that out for myself and talk about it to remind myself that no, that's just the way that I now operate. And yeah, I think that's all I got for today. We got through a good little 30 minutes, and I know that it's the end here got kind of choppy. So the visuals might not be so good, but hopefully you can hear my voice still pretty well, even though the visuals are, yeah, shitty. But um, do with that what you will. Um, Thanks for stopping by, and stay safe, stay healthy, stay weird, stay tuned, stay blessed. Uh, and I will see you at the crossroads. Damn it. Bye bye.